Hey everyone, and today I'll be showing you how to make my remix for Faith for the Spinnin Records remix contest. So let's dive right into the project. So for those of you who haven't listened to yet, here's what the drop sounds like. As you can see that here, everything is color coded. So we've got the kick here, and then we've got the percussions and the bass and pads in purple, and then we've got all the piano and plugs in green, and then we've got vocal chops, the vocals, and finally the effects. This makes it a lot easier to see what's going on. It also makes it look quite nice as well. And also all the tracks are arranged into similar groups. So we've got percussions here, and some are in summing stacks, such as this percussion bit, and we've got the vocals as well in one bus. So let's start off with looking at the vocal chops. So when I started, I grabbed a section of the chorus, because I think it has quite a lot of potential. So here's what it sounds like. And then I had to manually cut it myself into regions. Yeah, so it sounds something like that. And then I convert it into Logic's sampler instrument by clicking convert to new sampler track, and then it comes up with this MIDI region here. And then I was playing on the MIDI keyboard to find some melody, and I was happy with this one. And so I bounced it out, and then I've got some basic processing, which includes a compressor. Well, actually got there, moving all the low frequencies. There's an exciter as well, and saturating compression. To go along with the vocal chops and the drop, I've got a pad. Actually, there's a couple of layers, all are from Logic. They've got really basic processing going on. It's just a low cut and compressor for a sidechain. For the chords and the drop, they're in this bus here. Sounds something like this. So again, they've got the low cut, and then individually they have quite a lot of boost in the high end, just give it that sparkle and brightness. And also for the guitars, this is what it sounds like. In solo, it probably sounds a bit strange, but I think together in the mix, it sounds quite nice, and it adds a bit of transient to the drop. For the bass, there's two layers. There's a sub bass here, and there's a mid bass. For the mid bass, I basically wrote off all the low frequencies that might clash with the sub bass. It has a sidechain, of course. And that's the sub bass, so that's together. They both have a sidechain to avoid clashing with the kick. For the drums and percussion, there's quite a lot of layers. So firstly, there's a kick, which is from the original. They've got a little bit of EQing, just to make sure that it fits the groove of this track. I've also added this other layer, which is only the high frequency, so no low ends here. It just adds a bit more transient to the kick to have it shine through the mix a little bit more. Here, this is a clap and snares, so we're on the second and fourth beat. So it goes like this. And there's a bunch more percussion loops just to help add to the groove a bit. So claps, shakers, snaps, I think. and I've took some from the stem as well. This adds a lot more movement. Just add this fill right here, so it makes it a little bit more interesting rather than just, you know, like a continuous 8-bar loop. And then an interesting bit is this here, this summing stack. It's basically just a lot of random percussions. Although it might sound strange, I think together it just adds a lot of character to the song. I mean, like, you can't really hear it in the mix, but it just adds a lot more feeling to it. And to make it more subtle, there's a tremolo plugin here half the time. There's a imaging tool again, so it's quite wide, and there's a reverb. You might have noticed that in the project there's some tracks which are basically the same instrument, same sound, but they've got a little bit of processing which is different. So we've got this one, this pad here, and this one. So it's the same thing, but one's played in the break and the one plays in the drop. And this is so that I can make small changes to the sound without having to automate it for each section. So I have just one for the break and one for drop. I think it's quite a good tip for anyone. And that's basically the drop. Yeah, all of them together just comes together and sounds like this. And there are two things which I want to point out for the break, which is this. It's basically a piano which plays one note. And that's why a lot of reverb going on as well, and a lot of stereo imaging. I think that it adds quite a lot of emotion and atmosphere to the song, and it also helps keep the rhythm going for the listeners when in the break where there's not a lot of percussions going on. Another one is this string here. It plays again one note, I think. One sustained note. It does quite the same as with the pluck, but it just adds again emotion and harmony to the song. During the break, so here we got the intro. There's not a lot of things going on, so basically just some chords, and then as we progress, we've got more percussion, so shakers, more shakers, clap as well. So snaps coming in, got the clap here. And when we reach the build up, the chords are slowly coming in, so I've automated so that the cutoff here, this one, the cutoff opens up as we reach the drop. The other automation I think it's quite important is the gain. So this is on the master bus. The volume is basically going down and then it comes back up again at the drop. So this makes the drop more impactful because the volume before the drop is lower than the drop itself. And this is why dynamic is so important in the song. And you might wonder why I've been automating the gain instead of the volume. And that's basically so that the volume faders are free to move and they don't get stuck to the automated value. And this just makes mixing a lot easier. And that's basically how I made the track. You can go check it out on the Spinnin Records website or on SoundCloud. The link will be in the description. It's still open, so you guys can go vote and even submit your own remixes.